Am I the asshole for feeding my dog table scraps from a dinner my boyfriend made for us? I, 24 female, have been dating J, 28 male, for 4 months. He's handsome, funny, smart, well-educated, has an awesome job, and is a total sweetheart. Sunday, he had a whole day planned for us. We were gonna walk a nature trail and then go back to his place for dinner that he was making. I was excited because it would be the first time I'd be at his house. He also said I could bring my dog Shelby with us. He made a roast and some veggies for dinner, and I finished my plate before he did. There was half of the roast left, so I took half of that half with some veggies and put it on a plate for Shelby. That's when Jay asked me what I was doing. Am I the asshole for feeding my dog table scraps from a dinner my boyfriend made for us? I told him I was feeding Shelby, and he said something like, well, that's not dog food. He knows I mainly feed Shelby a raw diet. I opened the door to put the plate down for Shelby, and Jay got up, took the plate away from her, went to the kitchen, and came back with it wrapped in tinfoil. Then he asked me to leave. His excuse was that he made dinner for me and him, not me, him, and my dog. And that I should have asked him before I helped myself since he would have used the leftovers. Before I left, I told him that he made the meal for us so I could do with some of it as I pleased. And he knew damn well how I feed Shelby. So I'm just asking, am I in the wrong? Am I the asshole for telling my niece her dog is not comparable to my child? I lost my 15-year-old daughter in a car accident last year. I haven't been able to clean her room or go in it, and my husband doesn't either. I don't go anywhere except work anymore, and while I'm in therapy, it isn't helping much. Now, my niece is 17 and has always been very empathetic to animals, but not to people. Her dog passed 2 years ago, and she was torn up for months. Well, last week she came to stay with us, and my husband made her a bed on the couch. She asked why she couldn't sleep in my daughter's room, being that she thought it was the new guest room. I explained that we hadn't been able to change anything yet, and she rolled her eyes. She said it was a year ago and we needed to move on. Am I the asshole for telling my niece her dog is not comparable to my child? I explained that we haven't been able to change anything yet, and she rolled her eyes and said it was a year ago. She said we need to move on, and when I started crying, she tried to apologize. I think in an attempt to relate, she said she had taken the loss of her dog very hard, but got over it within a year. I screamed that my child wasn't a dog. My husband came in to moderate and ended up telling my niece to go home. He called an Uber for her, and I haven't spoken to her since. But my sister reached out and said that I was being unreasonable and made my niece feel like a monster. I didn't mean to upset her, but I felt that was completely out of line.
Am I wrong for not inviting my sister and her kids to Disney with my brother and his kids because I know she can't afford it? I haven't taken my kids on a real vacation since pre-pandemic, but now that we are all vaccinated, I want to take them to Disneyland. My brother Jack, whose kids are about the same age as mine, feel the same. Disneyland is expensive. The trip will cost about $8,000 for each family. My brother and I both have great jobs, so the money is not a struggle for us. My sister Jane is always talking about how broke and underpaid she is and complaining about her student loans. I don't know her salary, but she's a social worker, so I know it's not a ton. Well, my brother and I figured she wouldn't be able to afford it based on a couple of weeks ago when we brought up the idea of a vacation at a Labor Day cookout, and she just went on about how she wishes she could afford a family vacation. Well, since she said she couldn't, we just didn't invite her and planned a trip with our wives and our kids. This weekend, people were over and my nephew, Jack's son, brought up how excited he is for Disney, to which Jane asked about, and the details came out. And then Jane got all mad for not getting invited. I told her I didn't invite her because she literally said she couldn't afford a vacation. She then said that I was rubbing it in that we make more money than her and that we could have covered part of her trip and then had a real family vacation with everyone. I just felt that as we're all adults with our own families, we're past the age that I'd be subsidizing her for anything that's not an emergency. But then yesterday she sent a really passive-aggressive text about it, basically calling us assholes.
Am I the asshole for refusing to feed my baby and going to bed? I, 23 female, and my 22 male husband brought our newborn home recently. I'm up from 1 a.m. to 11 p.m. with her most every day. I maybe get a few hour naps throughout the day, but it's barely anything. My husband, on the other hand, works 37 hours a week, and when he gets home from work, he expects me to care for her because he's had a hard day at work. Well, today when he got home, he instantly got on Fortnite, and I was finally able to catch a little sleep. 20 minutes later, she started screaming because she was hungry. My husband woke me up to feed her, and I picked her up, handed her to him, and said no. Am I the asshole for refusing to feed my baby and going to bed? I went to bed, and now my husband and his friends and family are calling me an asshole. They think it's my job to care for the baby because I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm just so tired. Edited to add that she did not go hungry. When I said no, he got up and he fed her. He was just throwing a tantrum. We did have a set schedule, but he refuses to follow it. He says he's too tired from work and then goes back to his game. Edit number 2. He's agreed to take the day off to babysit so I can get my beauty sleep, as he calls it. I think I'm leaving him. Edit number 3. Today I got out of bed and he was willingly feeding her.
You will not believe how I caught my best friend cheating on her boyfriend with her brother. Hi, my name is Sarah and I'm 22 years old. I submitted this story because I wanted to know if I was in the wrong or not. Let's get into it. Me and my ex-friend Lindsay have been best friends for over 6 years. We did everything together until about a year ago. This made me pretty upset, but I understood because she was mostly my only friend, and that wasn't her fault. Anyways, when she got her new boyfriend, they were inseparable. They would do everything and anything together. She would even ditch me for plans with him. Until she started acting weird one day. She started talking a lot about her brother as if he was her best friend, and she smiled and giggled when she mentioned him. I thought they hated each other. This, in fact, was very weird. And you will not believe what else happened. Make sure to come back for part 2. You will not believe how I caught my best friend cheating on her boyfriend with her brother, part 2. This was in fact very weird. I asked her why she was getting so close with her brother all of a sudden, and she claims they made up over a grudge they had toward each other for a long time. Again, this was random, very random, so I decided to do some digging. Technically, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I read through some of her text messages while she was taking a shower at my house, and she seemed very bored with her boyfriend. The way she was speaking to him, and she kept making excuses for why she couldn't attend their plans. So around August 10th, they had this conversation. They were supposed to go on a date, but she flunked. So I decided to check her Snapchat memories for around this time, and she was having dinner with her brother at a restaurant. For whatever reason, there were roses in the background next to her in her seat, and they were holding hands and they were giggling. So then I kept looking around at the Snapchat memories, and oh my gosh, I saw the most disturbing thing. You will not believe what happens next. You will not believe how I caught my best friend cheating on her boyfriend with her brother, part 3. I ended up finding strange videos on the phone, and photos, if you get what I mean. So then after that, I came up with a plan. Lindsay's dad had been eyeing me for a while, so I decided to give him a chance. I slept over at his place, if you get what I mean, and stood the night. Lindsay and her brother came home and were confused to find the two of us. I explained to her I spent the night because today we were having a big family dinner, and I stated that I invited Lindsay's boyfriend as well. This made her uncomfortable, but I just brushed it off. So then when everyone came, we all had dinner, we were all having a good time, and that's when I decided to drop the bomb. I started reading text messages between Lindsay and her brother out loud and airdropped the photos and videos to everyone, including her boyfriend. Lindsay rushed out of the house and so did her brother, and I haven't seen them since then. However, I did not feel bad for what I did. But I don't know. Am I in the wrong?
Story time. My boyfriend cheated on me with the girl best friend. So a little background information. I was 17 and a junior in high school, and my boyfriend and I had been dating for a year. But just a little backstory about when we got together. So there were definitely some red flags that I missed, okay? One of them being that he had a girl best friend. And I don't care what y'all have to say if that makes me insecure or what. But coming from someone who has been the girl best friend, I knew this was not good at all. Especially whenever we first started dating and she was still being super friendly with him, meaning she would hold his hand, she would hang on him 24/7. And when I told him I was super uncomfortable with that and I felt like there needed to be some boundaries, he was like, yeah, I told you what it was whenever we got together. So if you don't like that, then just break up with me. Looking back on it now, that was also a red flag because I feel like he was telling me to break up with him so that way he didn't have to break up with me, like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend cheated on me with the girl best friend. So like I said, she would still hang all over him and he pretty much told me, if you don't like that, then you can leave. Obviously, I did not want to leave because I liked him and he was my boyfriend. So I just kept putting up with it, and eventually, we got 6 months into our relationship. So at that point, I'm thinking maybe I have a little bit more authority, to be like, hey, I don't like the way that she acts around you. You guys can't hang out like that anymore. And they would hang out alone together. He would take her to dinner, which I literally tried telling him that the stuff that they do together is relationship stuff. And he was like, that's not true at all because we did all of this stuff before you and I even got together. So anyways, like I said, 6 months in, I'm like, hey, I don't like the way that you guys are hanging around each other. Once again, he gives me the same excuse. So he pretty much said that he didn't care. And the one night him and I were supposed to hang out, but he canceled on me last minute. And her and I didn't get along, and she never Snapchatted me before, but then I get a Snapchat of her and him making out at his house.
Am I wrong for literally showing my dad how he behaves every day when he gets home from work? I, female 16, have a father 46 who is the breadwinner while my mom is a stay-at-home mom. She handles everything around the house like cooking, mopping, washing, laundry, etc. I'm the oldest and I try to help, but there's really only so much that I can do while my dad just gets home at the end of the day and literally complains about everything, like how the carpet isn't clean or how the food is cold. As a result, I'd have to listen to huge arguments daily between him and my mom. It's exhausting, but honestly, I think my dad is just in the wrong here. I tried talking to him to get him to see his behavior, but to no avail. So what I did was pick a day off for him and pretend to act like him. I put together an outfit that looked like a suit and put black tape over my lips to look like a mustache. At 6 p.m., I went inside the house. I shouted, "I'm home!" Then sat next to him in the living room and started kicking my shoes while complaining about the state of the house at the top of my lungs. He glanced at me confused, asking what I was doing. I ignored him, then started yelling about the carpet being dirty, shower not ready, and the kids needing to be quiet and so on. He kept staring while my mom and siblings laughed. My youngest brother pointed towards me saying, "This is daddy." I then proceeded to yell about dinner, then berated my mom for not preparing it before time. My dad stopped me in a serious tone and asked what I was doing. I turned to him and said, "What? Can't a man effing rest after working long hours?" in the most macho voice I could muster. My dad got the hint because this was a common phrase he uses daily. He went quiet and avoided looking at me. I stopped the acting and I told him that I was trying to show him what he's like every day when he comes home from work. He said nothing, just went outside and refused to speak to me. Later, he went on about how I mocked and invalidated him, that he does work hard and me doing this was disrespectful and invalidating. My mom said it was funny, but also thought that I hurt my dad's feelings and I could have gotten the message across in some other way. So, am I in the wrong here?